Hola. So today we're going to learn how to make a sauerkraut, and I guess we'll talk a little bit about kimchi as well because the process is similar. Sauerkraut is a fermented cabbage product, and it's made by pretty much just salting cut cabbage and letting it rest. So let's go over the prepping. I'm going to use, we'll see how much fits in my container. What you're going to need is a container to put your kraut in, a weight of some sort. So if you're using a larger container like a bowl, you need a plate that fits on top. I'm going to be using this used yogurt container, and I'll be using this jar filled with popcorn as my weight. But really the only two ingredients to make kraut are cabbage and salt, which I have here. And the ratio is, for every 5 pounds of cabbage, you need 3 tablespoons of salt. So it's really not that much salt either. Alright, so let's start by cutting off the roots. I've dissected this one in half so that you guys can see this root, the stem rather. And it's important to cut this off because if you leave this in your kraut, it'll give you a bitter taste. So I'm going to start doing that. And while I do that, I'll talk a little bit about kimchi. Kimchi is a Korean fermented product made in pretty much the exact same way as kraut, the only difference being the ingredients. So for kimchi, you would use Korean cabbage or any type of cabbage, garlic, scallions, onions, chilies, hot chilies, fish sauce. It's pretty much just a pickle of a variety of things. The cut that you end up using on your kraut is really up to you. I know some people that like their kraut pretty thin. Some people like to cut their kraut a little thicker so that they can cook it after it's been pickled. Germans like to eat warm sauerkraut or hot sauerkraut, and I think a lot of times it's left a little thicker. I'm going to cut mine kind of in the middle. So I'll go ahead and cut this cabbage. And I recommend that if you are going to do it in a container like this, you have a bowl when you prepare it, so that you can toss the cabbage with the salt and you can evenly coat, or rather better distribute the salt throughout the cabbage. It's important that when you're packing the cabbage into your container, you really pack it down. That'll encourage the salt to act on the cabbage. Salt is hygroscopic, which means it's basically a property that salt has in which it pulls moisture. And so that's essentially what we're doing with kraut, is we're pulling moisture, the moisture found in the cabbage, out of the cabbage to create a salty brine or a salty solution in which the cabbage, now dehydrated, is resting in this brine, and it's allowed to ferment and pickle. And that's what kraut is. So basically what we'll be doing is, after we package this with the salt, all it has to do is rest. And it's just a matter of time before you have delicious kraut. So yeah, let's put this in a bowl. I'm gonna leave this big chunk out. Actually, I'm gonna cut these up a little more. And go ahead and cut this one up as well. Okay. So now I've got my bowl filled with cabbage, and I'm going to add my salt. I do it kind of just by sight, but if you want to measure it, like I said before, the ratio is 3 tablespoons of salt per 5 pounds of cabbage. Alright, I'm tossing the salt and the cabbage together. Cool, and that's enough. Now what we'll do is take this container, and basically what we're trying to accomplish is pack this down as much as possible. the packing will ensure that more moisture is extracted from the cabbage and will pretty much just accelerate the process. And like I said, feel free to add anything to this. This is just cabbage, but you can add carrots, you can add onions, you can add garlic, and really have fun with your kraut. I love making purple cabbage kraut, mostly because it looks really cool. Alright, so as you can see, this still has enough space to fit some more cabbage, which I'll add from my whole cabbage over there. But what you want to do is add weight to this, like that. That's all. And you want to set this in some sort of cabinet where it's room temperature. Try to put it away from other dry goods, as your other dry goods might absorb the smell of the pickling kraut. And yeah, it takes about a week in the summertime and about a week to 2 weeks during the winter time if it's a little cooler indoors. What you can do to accelerate the process is check it every couple of days and give it a stir and repack it. That'll kind of distribute the brine and accelerate the process. After your kraut is done, and you'll know it's done by tasting it, you can just put it in a jar and put it in your fridge, and it'll keep for quite a bit, at least a month, I would say. The cool thing about making kraut at home is that it's not pasteurized. A lot of the sauerkraut that you can buy at the store is pasteurized, and it gives it just a completely different taste. It's like cooked cabbage versus raw cabbage, right? And so now you have this raw product that is pretty much impossible to get, that you can only make at home, and it takes 2 minutes. So enjoy making kraut, and we'll see you soon.